At this time, I'm going to call to order the regular scheduled meeting for the Town of Florence on November 21st, 2013, held here at the Town Council Chambers. Mr. O'Gean, can you take roll, please?
Yes, sir. Chairman Woolley,
Present.
Vice Chair Patrick,
Present.
Commissioner Petty, Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Commissioner Reed.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Would you all stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next agenda item for this evening is going to be the discussion, approval, or disapproval of the minutes for the regular meeting conducted on September 5th of 2013. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at these minutes?
Yes.
Do you have any questions or concerns on these minutes?
I don't.
If I have no questions or concerns on these minutes, I will take a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting conducted on September the 5th, 2015.
And I'll second it.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from September 5th meeting. Motion made this evening by Commissioner Anderson, seconded by Commissioner Reed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes have now been approved.
There's the signed one.
Okay, before we start the next agenda item this evening, I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping items. This is going to be a work session tonight. It is not a public hearing. This is an opportunity for the public to work with the commission to help determine what's going on this evening. I will control the time. If I think somebody's just going on and on and on and saying the same thing, I probably will shut you down. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. The other thing that I want to make you aware of is this evening is not like last week's meeting, or the last meeting. Tonight is not about who's letting weeds grow or who's got 95 horses, who's got 10 chickens. Tonight's not about that. Tonight is about us all coming together and coming up with a solution. Once we come up with a solution, there will be no vote on it this evening. It is not an action item this evening. It's just a, let's get this all worked out. This will come to us, correct me if I'm wrong, at our next meeting as an actual action item. Okay? All right, with that, anybody who does speak this evening, I will remind you, because of the minutes that we do have to take, we will need you to state your name and address for the record anytime you come up and speak. Okay? Thank you very much. With that, we'll go to the agenda item number 5, which is the work session on case number PZC 34-13 ordinance. This is a manufactured home subdivision rural ordinance. Ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, amending the Town of Florence Code of Ordinances, Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 150, Development Code, Section 150.031, Defined Words, Section 150.047, District Use Regulation Table A, and adding a new section entitled Manufactured Home Subdivision Rural, MHSR. Mr. Eckhoff.
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. No organized presentation tonight. It's a work session, so I just want to put some points out on the table and kind of explain what we're doing a little bit. And then it probably, considering that we do have some folks in the audience, if you were to recognize some folks and get some comments, it might help us with our discussion a little bit here tonight. But what we've done is kind of in a continuation from our last meeting. We went back and we prepared different versions of a proposed ordinance. So this is a little bit unusual, but we're trying to find where that sweet spot really is in developing a potential zoning district for this area. So background a little bit more is that we have a pending annexation that is called the Arizona Farms annexation that includes this the particular subdivision called Wild Horse Estates. It's adjacent to Crestfield Manor. North of that, there's additional vacant land going along Felix Road and Arizona Farms Road. The Wild Horse Estates subdivision is a little bit unique in that the county zoning for it really is not consistent with what is there. And there's also some non-compliance issues in the subdivision. So we're trying to find that point again where we can develop a zoning district that, should the annexation be successful, we would have that district in place to apply to the property as comparable zoning, as comp zoning, as we call it when we do an annexation. Now, that is not a zone change, so there's been some misconceptions about what exactly we're doing and how can we change people's zoning, and we're doing a zone change, differently. But we're not doing a zone change. We're going out of our way to establish what we hopefully will be a reasonable zoning district to apply to the property as comparable zoning to what is on the property now in the county. That doesn't change the zoning. So there will be...
Real quick, I want to clarify something. When we say comparable zoning, we're talking about what's on the books, not what's happening.
And comparable zoning is a zoning district that tries to as closely as possible reflect the use that the county allowed. And as we spoke about at the last meeting, that may mean that a single-family residential zoning district is comparable to a single-family residential zoning district. A neighborhood commercial to neighborhood commercial, industrial to industrial. As you go through the categories, though, we don't have we don't have identical categories to what the county has. So again, this area is zone manufactured home, or MH. Well, they allow a fairly small lot. All the lots are a lot larger than what the county minimum is. The county for MH allows only a manufactured home. Most of the homes out here are site-built. Well, our MHS zoning category right now would be the comparable zoning that we would apply. If we weren't going through this effort, we would normally just apply the comparable zoning district that we have. This is the first time ever that we've actually gone out of our way to create a zoning district to try and be accommodating of what the county allows and what's in existing conditions out there. So under normal scenario, we would have just applied the MHS. And our MHS is it's a small lot. It allows only a manufactured home. It allows no horses. Okay? So we knew that would create some problems, and all of a sudden everybody out there has a non-conforming situation. Oh, you have a site-built home? Non-conforming. Oh, you have a horse? Non-conforming. Didn't want to go down that path. So that's why we're taking this effort to develop the zoning district. Initially, when we had meetings, the folks, some of the folks that were coming out were kind of saying, well, this is a very agricultural subdivision. We have a lot of animals. We're very animal friendly. But that's really, I don't think that is an accurate reflection of the subdivision. Just have been through the area so many times, and I don't see that. Initially, it didn't seem like, we kind of got the impression that maybe the county hadn't been doing code compliance, that maybe some folks had more animals that were allowed, or why did they have site-built homes when the zoning district only allowed manufactured? Well, the county actually is doing code compliance. We're aware of citations that are out there for folks that have more than 2 horses. The county zoning district, the requirements were included in your packet, and specifically, the zoning that's on the property now in unincorporated Pinal County, it allows you to have one manufactured home on your lot. It allows you to have accessory buildings, but specifically, if you have a lot that's an acre or larger, you may not have more than 2 horses more than 6 months of age. And then there's particular setback requirements and some other details. So there are no provisions for anything more than two horses. It's 2 horses. No goats, no chickens, no alternative animals, although they may, through their interpretation over Pinal County, say, well, such and such is similar to a horse, I'll let you have 1 horse and 1 whatever. But really, the bottom line is it's a manufactured home, and minimum lot area of 8,000 square feet and 2 horses. So we have the proposals there that are included in your information. And
Mark, if I could ask real quick, on all these options, These were sent to the residents as well?
Yes, we sent all those to every single lot owner out there. And also, for the record, you also have some additional options that came your way.
That would be option F.
Yes.
And was that also given to the residents? Have they seen it?
No, that was from one of the homeowners that was given to us yesterday. So we labeled it option F just so you wouldn't get confused because it looks just like the rest of the options. But that one did not go out to the homeowners. It was the opinion of one of the homeowners that lives out there.
So we've got a little bit of additional feedback, and we've had some correspondence with a couple of the owners out there, and some of those ideas are conveyed in that option F. But the options go across the board here. So you can see the option A is very similar to what you saw at the last meeting. Kind of opens the door to potentially a lot of animals. And then there's other options where, you know, it goes all the way to the extreme of, well, 2 horses, period, nothing else. The option that staff feels is probably fairly reasonable and accommodating, considering, you know, the research and the comment that we've done so far, that we've received, is probably something similar to an option E, where as a matter of right, you have you address, and first of all these address the lot size requirement is consistent with the lot sizes that are out there. The setback requirements we're following the county. We're trying to be as close as we can to the county requirement for this setbacks and heights, standards for accessory buildings, etc. And in fact, I'll also note that for animal control, we adopt the animal control ordinance. So there's our provisions for caring for animals and dealing with sick animals and sanitary conditions. Well, they're pretty much identical to the county. So there's some things that are similar in all these options, in the lot size, the standards for accessory buildings, the setbacks, whether it's and it can be a manufactured home or a site-built home. So that's a similar part. The difference is where you get into what the regulations are going to be on animals. So you do have the kind of go from one spectrum to the other of it's just 2 horses, or it's potentially horses, goats, sheep, chickens, and a lot of other things. As I was about to say before, I think one of the a couple of the reasonable options, I'll specify option E is it allows the number one, you need to have the minimum lot size. Well, all the lots in the subdivision meet that lot size, but that's there in case somebody were to maybe potentially reduce their lot size somehow. But 2 horses are permitted on a lot. That's what the county says now. Substitution could be for an alpaca or a llama. The commission may even consider, I think I saw in one of the code compliance letters from the county that their interpretation was that a mule or a donkey was similar to a horse, although in my continuing education on this, people dispute that fact. There are provisions for offspring, so if you have under the age of 6 months, they don't count towards that number. But then what E does, and what a couple of other options do, is allow for a conditional use process. So if you are a responsible animal owner, you're taking care of your lot, you're not offending your neighbors, you've got the right conditions, well, you can apply for a use permit that would allow you up to 2 additional horses or similar. With the use permit then, a use permit, as you know, is something that can be, there can be a time limit on it, try it on a trial basis, or it can be revoked. If they were to go down the road and they're not meeting the the conditions, the appropriate conditions to maintain their lot or take care of the animals, the use permit could be revoked.
Can the use permit be per owner, not per residence?
The use permit would run with the land. So if
So if they sold it, it stays there?
Yes. Yes. And then also there'd be a provision to allow hens on a property with a use permit. Again, subject to keeping them in a manner that would be appropriate for the size lots and the nature of the subdivision. So that actually goes. That's, you know, this is where you're creating a scenario where you have comparable zoning, and it's consistent with what's out there for the most part, although there may be a couple of compliance issues. But then you have the options to go beyond that with a use permit.
You said the favored one, from your opinion, is E, correct?
Staff believes that E is pretty
Is
pretty reasonable at this stage. I think that the one that was presented at the last meeting and the option A that you have here, I don't think that reflects it doesn't reflect the zoning at all. So number one, it's not comparable, and number two, it doesn't really reflect the conditions and the situations out there. But you know, maybe.
So if I'm reading this correctly, I've got option F in my hand.
Option F.
Same as E except for one paragraph, correct?
Option F, I believe what they've tried to do is introduce some additional regulations in regards to, you know, diseased animals and noise complaints and a lot of other things that we typically just wouldn't throw in a conventional zoning district.
Right.
And because, again, we've already adopted codes in regards to sanitary conditions and you know, taking care of your animals and keeping your animals healthy and not spreading diseases. Pinal County Animal Control, even if the area is annexed, will continue to enforce
Absolutely.
those regulations.
Well, what I would like to do is, since E and F are virtually identical except for that one highlighted paragraph, correct?
There's more to it, but that
I
was...
thought you said you highlighted all the changes.
No. That's
Oh, okay.
just the main paragraphs to keep us from getting confused. But no, there's more, as Mark mentioned, there's more changes to the rest of the pages.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
It's quite different than E.
F ended up adding a lot of additional provisions that I think actually are kind of coming, they're a little bit more consistent with maybe some county regulations. It talks about a county enforcement agent, diseased animals, noise violations. Again, it's just really getting into areas that are either not applicable and or covered by other ordinances.
County health.
So, yes.
Okay. I want the public to be aware of what F really is, since they don't have it, so.
Okay.
That's kind of why I wanted you to go over it, so. Okay, so how do we want to just start rattling off options and listen to what they have to say? How do you want to approach this?
Well, Chair, members of the commission, I think it probably would be a good idea to give the folks that want to say something a brief opportunity to maybe express an opinion on one of these, or maybe they dislike all of them. But
Yeah.
to just kind of hear what those thoughts are.
Okay, I think before I get started, Mr. Anderson's got a question.
Question on E. It says 2 horses are permitted. That's on page 4. And later on, it says 4 horses are permitted. So,
Well, with the use permit, you could get 2 additional if you got a use permit. So by right, you automatically have the 2, just like in the county.
okay.
So if, let's say E was picked tonight, I want to just back his up a little bit. If E was picked tonight, everybody agreed on E, everybody was happy with E, and we forward E to the town council for approval, it goes through. Somebody who currently has more than 2 would have to come back and petition for a conditional use permit, correct?
They would if, you know, the county's doing enforcement out there. We're aware of that. So if at the time, should the annexation get done and the area comes in and there's folks that are not complying with the county ordinance, those those would not be valid continuing non-conforming uses. So a non-conforming use would be if the county allowed 3 horses by right, our code said 2, well, they come in, they get to keep the 3 because it's a valid legal non-conforming use, all right? But if the county never said you could, if the county only said you could have 2, but you have 3, well, that was against the law, and something that's against the law is not considered a valid non-conforming situation.
Right.
Yeah, so they have to if they're not keeping up with the ordinances now in the county and they're in violation, well, you know, they have a problem. If we adopted a code that would mirror that, they would continue to have a problem. At least we give the option, which is not on the table in the county, of the use permit.
Would once this process happens, would we give that development a grace period to get their additional paperwork ready? Because there's obviously some homeowners that would have to petition for a use permit.
Yeah, I think
Because they would exceed any of our options, no matter what we all decide tonight. There's going to be a handful of owners that are still going to be out of compliance. Will we give them a grace period, or is this going to be, no, you have to do it now?
No, I think you provide adequate due process, and if we have a code that's adopted that allows this option, that option has to be expressed to people that, you know, you have a route to pursue. If you don't pursue this, then, you know, that's...
I had a quick question about the water channel that is adjacent to part of the property. Is that a 404 wash?
It probably is a 404, and it probably is a you know, within the floodplain, flood hazard. Unfortunately, it's on an easement, so it belongs to folks. It belongs to lots. But the subdivision is also within the magma flood control district, and I believe that they generally have the right to assist in maintaining drainage ways within their district. So there's some jurisdiction there, I believe. I know also in their CCNRs there's language about maintaining the wash. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you know, the HOA doesn't validly exist today. It exists on paper, and there are recorded CCNRs, but there's no HOA that's enforcing the CCNRs today.
Is it also a wildlife corridor?
I don't think it's a designated one, but by virtue of probably, again, being an active wash with a sandy bottom, I'm sure that they have wildlife going through that corridor.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, I think the way I'd like to do this tonight to keep some kind of sense of organization is all you guys have received A through E. So I think how I want to approach it is we're going to talk about each one. If nobody wants to talk about A, we'll move on to B. Everybody agree with that? Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Fine, but you guys keep alluding to a user
Permit.
or something like that,
Uh-huh.
but nobody's explained exactly what that is.
Okay. Do me one favor real quick. Come up and state your name for the record and give me your question. Can we take a portable mic to him, please? And then I will have Mr. Eckhoff explain to you what the conditional use permit is. No, that's fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Michael Back. I live at 23664 North Chaps Drive in Wild Horse Estates. And as I said, you keep alluding to this user thing, but nobody's explained what it is.
Okay. I'm going to have Mr. Eckhoff take over right now and have him answer that for you.
Before we go on, I'd just
Okay.
like to know what it is.
Okay?
Okay. There's 2 types of uses. Uses that are allowed by right, automatically, unquestionably. If option E is applied to land within the town of Florence, by right, you can put a manufactured home or a site-built home on it. By right, you can have 2 horses. There's no special approvals other than a building permit, you know, for a home, but there's no special zoning approvals that you have to get. You're allowed those things automatically. You're allowed an accessory structure. A conditional use permit is a permit that would have to be applied for, and it's reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And the most important criteria that always comes up on a use permit is the compatibility and appropriateness of that particular use at that particular location. So on a case-by-case basis, the town would have to review whether it's appropriate to have 3 horses, 2 horses, 3 horses, or 4 horses on a particular piece of property. And public input is extremely important in gauging compatibility or the perception of compatibility on a use permit.
Okay. I think one of the things I want to explain to the public is, if the conditional use permit process goes into effect, what that would do for, I'll just use you, sir, for an example. What that would do for you is, if we pass, let's say, option E tonight, okay? Well, not pass, but decide that that's what we're going to do. That kind of puts you out of compliance right now, doesn't it? If we decided on E tonight, that kind of puts you out of compliance, doesn't it? Because of the numbers. Because you have, I think you had said you had 5 horses? Yeah, but I still don't understand. Right. So what you would do is you would petition through planning and zoning for a conditional use permit to get an exception to the ordinance, okay? If they approve it, you get to keep your livestock that you have on that application, and you now are in compliance while that permit exists. Does that make sense now? It's in addition to the ordinance is what it is, okay?
So what if they don't approve it? I mean,
You know, I'll be honest, and I don't want you to take this wrong, but we could sit here and what if that all night. I've seen conditional use permits that shouldn't be approved, and I've seen ones that should have been approved, not be approved in this town. What's that?
Okay. One thing that we don't want to do is probably have the,
Yeah. Remember, I do need you guys to talk through the microphone. You have to state your name for the record.
so a use permit, it's an application that would be filed. It goes to the Planning Commission and Council. And it would be, if it's adopted by resolution. And it can spell out exactly what those additional standards are going to be. And the use permit will go with the land. But there can be a condition of the use permit that it could be revoked for non-compliance. So, but as I'll restate that right now, the county only allows 2 horses. Anybody that has more than the 2 horses is not in compliance with county regulations, and they are doing enforcement on that. If you have goats, if you have chickens, if you have several horses, you're not in compliance.
I think, from what I'm getting from the public, I think they understand that part.
Okay.
I think what they're trying to understand right now is, how does this CUP that you're talking about actually work?
Okay.
If we go that route, how does it actually work? Do they come see you? They
Yes,
apply for it?
there's an application that they would pick up from the Community Development Department, and it would go to a public, and we would notify the property owners. It would come to a public hearing here. It would come to a public hearing at the council. On a use permit, again, I'll restate, the most significant thing on a use permit is compatibility, or the perception of compatibility. So a conditional use is a use that if you have 2 almost identical properties within that subdivision, and they're zoned manufactured home, subdivision, rural, somebody may apply for a use permit on one property, and the lot may be larger than the other lot. Maybe all the neighbors on that side of the area think it is wonderful to have 4 horses. Maybe that lot's not abutting, another subdivision adjacent to it. So, the situation can vary from case to case. So on one lot, the public may come out and say, no, this is not appropriate because of X, Y, and Z, and because here's the history of perhaps how they've taken care of the 2 horses that they already have. Here's complaints that I found that they have with Pinal County Health Department.
We have to have a hearing for each conditional permit, don't we?
You'd have to have a hearing for each conditional use permit. So,
So it would be posted on the property
There would be a sign posted on the property, and all property owners within 300 feet would be noticed, and there was a notice placed in the newspaper.
Okay.
It's a public hearing at the Planning Commission, public hearing at the Town Council, and if it's denied, it's denied. If it's approved, then it's approved, probably with those stipulations that are going to run with that use permit and run with the land. So at least it's an avenue, because there is no avenue now. You're just playing out of compliance with more than 2 horses.
Right. Does that help you a little bit? What it is it's a chance for you to continue the way you are, no matter what ordinance we pass. It gives you an opportunity. What I can't tell you up here tonight is whether it will or will not be approved. That's a decision that has to go through a process. Okay? Does that help you a little bit more? Okay. What's that?
No, I said I have an idea.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you then. I think the lady in the cowboy hat had a question. Okay. So how I want to do this tonight, is there anybody who really wants to talk about A? Which one? Okay, come on up here, state your name.
My name is Nancy Sincata. My husband Logan Smith and I own 23625 North Bridle Way, Wild Horse Estates. And all of these people are my neighbors, okay? And I know that we have CCNRs, and everybody who bought into our neighborhood agreed to them because that's what happened when they bought. And I think that if you don't hold up the CCNRs and you give people the option of conditional use permits, those people that are not in compliance are always going to want more. And then you're leaving it up to their neighbors that live next door to them and down the street for them. And you're plotting neighbor against neighbor. And
We
if
have
we
no
have...
we have no jurisdiction over CCNRs. We have no control over that.
Yeah, if we're talking about
All I'm-
CCNRs, that has to be done through a civil court of law. We can't,
Well, all I'm explaining is that
Right.
everybody who moved into this development got CCNRs and they agreed to them,
correct.
okay? And everybody who lives in this development knows what the county regulations are. There are always going to be people that are not in compliance, okay? And they're going to want more and more. And the people who are in compliance, some people won't care, but others will, okay? And I just think that it's going to create friction amongst the neighbors. And it's not, I don't want to have to show up and say, no, I don't want this person to have 20 chickens, or I want to live peacefully in my neighborhood with my neighbors. And I think that by offering a conditional use, people are just going to be out of compliance more. That's the way it goes.
Excuse me.
And correct me, hold on one second. I'll let you go, Gilbert, but correct me if I'm wrong here, Mark. We're not offering this conditional use permit as just an open gamut for people just to start running out and purchasing all they want. This is just to help the ones that exist there now, correct?
Well, Chair, members of the commission, and the public here, the way the ordinance would be structured is that we could not limit in the ordinance that only such and such lots could apply for a use permit. So if the town went that way on allowing that provision, it would be applicable to any lot owner out there. So even one today that maybe has no horses, or maybe one today that just has the 2. So yes, it does potentially open a door. Under the use permit, though, again, they're heavily regulated, and if you are not following the rules, or you end up having 5 animals, which is 1 over, that probably would be grounds to go ahead and pursue revoking the entire use permit, so you go back to 2. So use permits are pretty serious stuff. I mean,
Well,
You don't have a choice to decide whether to follow the rules or not.
We don't even need to have that in this ordinance.
You don't even need to have that. If you would just went with option D, I believe it is, and option D,
A person can apply for a conditional use permit for about anything they want to, right?
Technically, yes.
if there's a provision, you have to put the provision in the code that says there's a process for a use permit for such and such use. If you don't put it in the code like is in option E, then there's no use permit to apply for.
Oh, I thought they could apply for it under any circumstances.
No, Chair, members of the commission, a use permit has to be very specific. It has to be in the zoning district section, and it has to specify what that use is. So the use could be a second home on the lot, additional horse on the lot. The use permit in commercial is often instead of just a sit-down restaurant, maybe there's a use permit for a drive-through component. Maybe in a certain zoning district, there might be a use permit for a gas station that normally isn't allowed in a office zoning district. So once you put it in there, though, in the E, if it is in there, then every lot owner has the right to pursue that. So it doesn't have to be in there, though. There's option D, which I believe is the one that is pretty much a reflection of what the county rule is. It's two horses. There is a provision for the offspring once they get to a certain size. I think that then they have to be removed from the lot. But yeah, the D doesn't have the provision for any additional animals, or it doesn't define that anything beyond horses are allowed. So D is really as close to a reflection of what's out there and what the county zoning is than probably any of them.
I was just going to repeat what Mark just said, that we created an option. We tried to cover everything, so there is an option out there that it's where you don't have the CUP option. So we tried to put all those ideas into the options you have before you tonight. So the people here could come up and pick one of the options. I think, like I just mentioned, they all took all the facts into consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I still think I want to do it the way I said we're going to do it. I want to start with A. Yes, sir. I need to state your name for the record, please. Name and address, please.
I'm William Myers, Alicia Myers, my wife. We own 9986 East Twin Spurs Lane. And I have a comment on the wording of the options. We don't have any agricultural animals of our own. We don't have a problem with those who do, as long as they keep them clean, because there are sometimes flies in the summer and mosquitoes from the water that's not being refreshed and what have you, but I don't want to tell anybody to get rid of their animals. We bought knowing it was horse property.
Exactly.
But the thing is, the way and no offense to these gentlemen if they had anything to do with the writing these, but the way these options were worded, they don't really say anything. I mean, if you look at one option compared to the other, this one says you can have this, 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 and not this, and this one says you can have this, 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 and not this, but they're not the same. They're not interchangeable. It's not consistent. So it looks like, okay, so it says I can't have that, but can that mean I can have anything else? I believe what the wording should say is you can have this. List what is allowed, not what's not allowed. And if it's not on the list, then it's just not allowed. Because by excluding one here, you're including everything else somewhere else. And we lived in an HOA before we moved here, and they said you could have these trees on your property. You can't have these. And we picked one that wasn't on either list.
Right.
And we fought with them and ended up having to take 5 trees out, mature trees, after 3 years. And that's why we're here, because there was no active HOA. But I think it should be worded, though, to make it simpler to understand. The option, the idea is fine, and the number that you pick, as long as it's a reasonable number, I have no objections. But I think you want to be consistent with the way you word it and say, in this option, we'll allow these, and this option will allow these. And what have you, don't exclude anything along the way unless, you know, you're going to put that same exclusion everywhere.
Right. Well, and part of the reason that you have to exclude is because when you don't exclude, you create loopholes.
Well,
And when
you
you create
indicate in there
loopholes, you
that if
get-
it's not on the approval list, then
Right.
it's not allowed.
Yeah.
Well,
And that way it'd be simpler to say you can have 2 or 4 horses or whatever, a llama, an alpaca, what have you, but instead of saying, here you can't have a pig, well,
Right.
just say you just can't have pigs. You know, and just make it consistent all the way across. I think, I
Well,
found the
and-
options very, I tried to do a matrix of this and it didn't say anything. There was a lot of holes in it.
Well, and part of the problem that we have, and I think most everybody here this evening agrees, is that the current zoning they have says 2 horses, period. And anything else except for domesticated animals such as dogs, cats, and rabbits isn't allowed on the property.
Well, I understand,
But we
I
have people
understand
that
what
are
you're trying.
living that way now out of compliance. So what these guys have done is they've gone out there, they've looked, they've kind of assessed every situation out there and said, okay, here's a bunch of options that we're hoping we can all pick one that will get us moving forward so that we can get that code in place and the whole annexation can go through. So it's almost like starting from scratch, unfortunately, because we didn't have a code in existence. And the code that's the county's got out there, I think everybody out there agrees, is not being enforced. Or not, I said code, I meant zoning. It's
In
just
some
not being
cases,
enforced.
perhaps, yeah.
So they're took a shot in the dark writing all these ordinances going, okay.
Well, I wasn't
we gotta do
complaining about
something.
it. I was
So-
just suggesting that if you're more positive about what you want to include in each option, instead of, I mean, there were options where it excluded one type of animal, and then the other options didn't have exclusions.
Right.
And I'm just looking at, like, if you exclude this here, does that mean anything else is allowed? You didn't say we could have it,
Right.
but you didn't say we couldn't have it.
Chair, members of the commission, options A and B have that type of language because they were utilizing that animal units concept. C, D, and E
Are hybrids.
narrow, they get rid of they get away from the animal units concept. So if you utilize that notion of the animal units, which came from looking at some of the regulations in Maricopa County and Queen Creek, if you utilize that, then you've got to start to narrow it down, because in the description of the animal units, it lists all these animals. If you don't exclude them, they're included.
Right.
So, but I think C, D, and E are easier to follow because they don't utilize the animal units concept. They're just really straightforward. It's either, you know,
Boom, boom, boom.
it's,
Yeah.
yes,
That was just my
Okay.
suggestion.
yeah,
Thank you.
so.
All right, so, what I think, yes, sir. Can we get him a microphone, please? Sorry. It's all right.
My question is, everything here so far is going back to the number of animals. First of all, why are you people so enamored with manufactured homes when they are the smallest part of the property in there? There's, what, 15 max out of almost 100 homes? Don't you think we ought to get us properly zoned first? According to the people I talked with in the county, we are improperly zoned.
Correct. If we gave you our comparable zoning right now, there'd be a lot of people having to get rid of animals right now. That's what we're trying to do tonight.
Sir, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we're not a manufactured home community. We are a stick-built home community. Let's get us under that.
Well, I think
Because everything that's in those papers, this paper you guys sent us, everything is about manufactured homes and what the requirements are.
Mr.
Town
Eckhoff,
manufactured homes, the 8,000 square feet.
is that property not labeled as a manufactured development?
It's its own manufactured housing. Majority of the homes are site-built, because somewhere along the line, the county made an interpretation that will allow site-built homes in here. They said that they no longer believe that's an appropriate determination, but they have a combination of manufactured homes and site-built homes. Again, I think I've said this so many times, but our intent was not to bring anybody in and automatically make them non-conforming. So
Trying to find a
there-
happy medium, yeah.
therefore, our code says manufactured home or site-built home. If you just said site-built, anybody who came in and had a manufactured, be non-conforming. If you just said manufactured, anybody, then 80% of the homes are non-conforming because they're site-built. So you write them both in there.
So it's really, it's a hybrid that we're creating for that development, is what it is. So that everybody comes in compliance at one time.
Maybe we ought to change the description in the title because we call it, a manufactured home subdivision. Maybe we ought to change that title some way.
Exactly. Let's get it properly identified.
Well, we have to be careful with that because the law requires that we give equal zoning, and the zoning currently is manufactured home.
But your zoning is, for manufactured homes, you're talking about 8,000 square feet lots. There isn't an 8,000 square foot lot out there.
Right, yeah, but we can
That's
nitpick their county zone all night, and we can nitpick our zone. What we have to do is create that one that's gonna work for your community, okay? But we can't call it residential, because residential is not compatible to your existing zone. Your existing zone is manufactured home.
So why don't we just call it rural?
We can't,
Why?
because it has to be a comparable zone. Am I correct?
In the county, the property is zoned manufactured home. Our comparable zoning today would be manufactured home subdivision, MHS.
Right.
We changed the terms a little bit, increased the lot size, added the horses, and added an R on the end. And we state in the ordinance that would adopt it is that here's why we're doing this. We are intentionally trying to create a zoning district that would be utilized as comparable zoning for this area. So we were putting it in there to create an obvious comparable zoning district. Today, again, I'll say MH would be MHS, and everybody would be out of compliance. So, you know what? We're not here definitely to change what how the county interprets their zoning or to change the zoning in the county. What's done is done.
We're here to create
We
an equal
We can
one.
actually make it better by creating an appropriate zoning district that doesn't put everybody instantly out of compliance.
All of your options here tonight include both type homes, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That's the MSHR,
Absolutely.
or MHSR, sorry. Sir, I need you to state your name for the record on the microphone. My name is Ted Carpenter. No, I need you to do it through the microphone, sir. Yeah. Oh,
My name is Ted Carpenter. I live at 20042, I live at 9727 East Twin Spurs in the Wild Horse Estates. And I think there's some confusion here that was brought about with the initial building. There was phase one that was manufactured homes that were built at the time, and that's where the developer got the zoning for manufactured homes. The developer then built other than manufactured homes, regular brick and mortar homes, without changing the designation for the subdivision for homes. So what you're dealing with here, and I'll agree with A through E that all the manufactured homes, sure, go ahead and put all those regulations on them. But the other homes, and I think it needs to be litigated as to what the county wanted to do and why they allowed the developer to build regular structures on a division that was designed for manufactured homes. It still, I think, needs to be litigated in court as to what the purpose of the county was in allowing that to happen. They had building inspectors that went out and did all the inspections and everything. Even before annexation takes place, I think some litigation needs to be done as to find out what zoning that the county wanted for that. There's a mix-up in the zoning that the county had. And what you are taking is the mix-up of the county zoning, and you're trying to apply that now to people that have other than manufactured homes.
But we
And-
don't have any choice.
What's that?
Whatever was, we have no choice. We have to do it this way because whatever was done 5 or 10 or so years ago is already done. Whatever the county did is already done.
County
We're
screwed
trying
up.
to- We're trying to offer, we're trying to offer an ordinance that will cover both types of homes in that development because both types of homes
Well,
exist.
in effect, what you're doing is you're trying to take manufactured home regulations and apply them to non-manufactured home regulations, and you're trying to bring non-manufactured
That's not
homes
what we're doing.
regulations as to what we have. Right now, if you want to litigate it, to my way of thinking, and I think a judge could be convinced of this, is that you're trying to take non-manufactured homes and bring them down to the level of manufactured homes.
That's not
But
the
if you litigate it right now, I think you can make a good argument that there are no conditions on manufactured homes, and the way the CCRs are written and the way that the county has zoned it apply to manufactured homes, not non-manufactured homes. Therefore, a non-manufactured home has no regulations. 2 horses, 2 chickens, 2 pigs, whatever. That's my
That
comment.
doesn't, you're mixing the two things. No, I'm not.
Okay,
I
guys, this
thought I
is
was
not,
clear.
listen, hold on. This is my meeting. This is not gonna be a debate or a fight of who broke a law, who did what. Tonight, we're here to decide what is best to move forward. I can't change Pinal County. Pinal County screwed up. Everybody in this room agrees with that.
Okay.
I don't think there's an argument there. But in order for this to move forward, we came together tonight in a work session to decide how we're going to do it. We created MSHR, or MHSR,
All right.
to make this process easy for everybody. All
And-
we have to do tonight is narrow down what we're going to allow in the whole development. It doesn't care if you have a stick-built home or manufactured home. It's still Wild Horse Estates. It's still Wild Horse Estates. It's still going to look the same when you drive in. It's still going to be the same residents living there. The only difference is it's going to be a Town of Florence ordinance now that's going to be enforced, and those that are out of compliance now will either, one, apply for a conditional use permit, or they will deal with planning and zoning why they're out of compliance. So tonight, we're really not about who made the mistake and who's going to go to court over it, because really, that's the development yourself. You guys need to deal with Pinal County on that, because they created that problem to you, not to us. We're trying to bring you guys into our city limits, okay?
I understand.
And we're trying to give you something that's close to what you have now. Right now, you guys are a manufactured home development, period. And that's what we have to come up with. Something that encompasses that whole development and makes that gentleman over there happy, that lady over here happy, that gentleman over here happy. We have to make everybody happy. And that's what we're trying to do tonight, guys. We're not trying to decide who made the right, who made the wrong. We need to move forward in a progressive manner and say, okay, we're going to become part of Town of Florence, and this is how we'd like it to be, and all agree on that and move on. That's kind of where we're at tonight. So,
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you. I appreciate the time that you give. I know you'd rather be home watching football or basketball or whatever, but I know that you devote a lot of your
Rutgers
time
tonight,
to
so
this, and you're trying to make Florence the best
Right.
city in Arizona. And I applaud you for that, and I appreciate the work that you do. But, number one, I kind of like things the way they are. I will fight annexation because I do like things the way they are right now. The other thing is that the way you have yours written applies to manufactured homes. You say that in that. And we are not manufactured homes. You have not addressed non-manufactured homes. You're lumping us in with manufactured homes, which we are not. Therefore, I think, since we are not a manufactured home, those A, B, C, D, and E, or however many there are, do not apply to other than manufactured homes, the way you have that written.
I,
I got it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
okay.
read it for a second. Where we are covered on that, this is where that development is manufactured homes. Whereas the town of Florence in this ordinance to create a comparable zoning district to the Pinal County HMS zone is in place for Wild Horse Estates subdivision. That's how it becomes all-encompassing right there. We know there's not manufactured homes out there, or very little, okay? We know they're mostly stick-built. But we have to go by the code that exists there currently. It's manufactured home. So by saying Wild Horse Estates, we're encompassing every property that's in that area right there. Right there in the ordinance. It's in the, like, third paragraph down.
I understand what you're doing, but it's trying to say that you're a cow and we're going to call you a horse. But even though you got horns, we're still going to call you a horse.
Okay, can we do this then? Can it
We're
be
not,
reworded?
we're not manufactured homes, even though that falls into your guidelines, but we're not manufactured homes, and we shouldn't be treated as manufactured homes.
I think the gentleman's made his points, and we're also kind of getting off the subject. I do want to point out that we definitely do not blame Pinal County for anything. We don't know all the long history on this project. It seems like there's a lot of things that have occurred, and I don't know all the history. I don't know developer A from developer B to developer C, and how it started, and everything that happened in between.
I just explained it.
Well, I just want to clarify that, and I'm not having a discussion with the audience at this time. I just want to clarify for the record that we are not saying anything derogatory about Pinal County. The situation is what the situation is. It's zoned MH. It's zoned manufactured home by law. That's what it's zoned. Like it or leave it. You know, like that there's manufactured homes in there, like that there's site-built homes, like, you know, whatever number of animals. The bottom line is that it's zoned what it's zoned. And how it got to that point is really not of any, relevance to what we're doing. We're not the county. We don't have jurisdiction over correcting that. We don't have jurisdiction of creating a new zoning district for them. If they wanted to change the zoning out there, they would all have to, and all of them, comprehensively apply for a zone change. And again, try and be on the same page, and even more so, because under an actual zone change, everybody would actually have to concur in that process, and you would have to have essentially 100% agreement, versus in a comp zoning situation that's not a zone change. So at the end of the day, there could be folks that are happy and folks that are unhappy. As far as the name of the district, you know, we could explore that for the next meeting, but the two residential uses that we would allow in that code would still be manufactured and site-built, because we're not going to create non-conforming homes out there and tell folks that your home is not in compliance. So if you lose your home in a fire or a windstorm or vandalism, whatever happens, you can't replace it because guess what? Such and such type of home is no longer permitted. We're not going down that path. So I think we probably just need to kind of go back and focus on the options, particularly A through E. Probably more so, actually, I believe C, D, and E, which kind of narrow it down and become more similar to what the county has. If there maybe you could ask if there's some comments that haven't been expressed, because I think that the folks that have spoken have clearly stated their concerns. Maybe if there are any additional comments.
And I do need to remind you guys that this is not a public hearing to oppose. This is to just make a decision tonight. So we really, unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but like Mr. Eckhoff said, we really need to get to the bones of this work session. This was not designed as a public hearing for people to come up and vent. That's the next meeting. Once we make the decision, if you got problems still, come back to that next meeting. okay?
And
Tonight
that-
is really about coming up with an idea.
And I will clarify, at the next meeting is the continuation of the action, and I
Correct.
believe that the public hearing was open and closed for that item at that last meeting.
So it was.
So the next meeting, again, it's at your discretion on allowing comments to that. It's an action item.
May I make a proposal in preparation for the next meeting?
I'll listen. I can't say whether I can say yes or no at this point.
Well, this is my proposal, is that we go to the county, find out what the county's original intent for the zoning of Wild Horse Estates was and why they took the actions or allowed the actions that they did before we proceed further with trying to, you know, make horses out of cows or cows out of horses, or so that we get the correct zoning. Because if you don't, you're just opening up a can of worms down the road as to litigation or things that can happen. My proposal is that we get the wording right and the zoning right and apply to the county to get the correct zoning of what they originally intended, so that the city of Florence can come in and correctly address with the correct wording as to what exactly that you want and what is allowed. To my way of thinking,
Chair.
right now, since we are not manufactured homes, we can have whatever we want and however many we want, of chickens, ducks, geese, whatever.
Chair, members of the commission, the historical record and particularly in regards to an intent of what somebody meant to do out there, or somebody's interpretation from 10, 15 years ago has no bearing, no relevance. The property is zoned MH, and we just have to come up with hopefully as simplified of a zoning district that would be comparable and try to meet the concerns of what the zoning is, and also ideally have some bearing or reflection upon what is out there today. And unless there's any additional comment, I think we've kind of beat some of these points here.
I've got notes
That's all
down
I
as
have to
well.
say.
I've taken notes down as well. So.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, if we're going to beat it to death, guys, I'm going to shut it down because we've got to move on. We haven't even started the work session and we're an hour into the meeting already. So are you going to say the same thing we've been saying for the last hour?
I'm not.
Okay.
The last meeting here, I spoke, and I told you guys, I provided him with paperwork. The county, I talked with them, they said that we were improperly zoned. There's a new zoning commission in the county. They've gone and got the latest zoning stuff that complies with all the updated zoning for the rest of the state, and they are looking into rezoning everybody. I provided you with paperwork. Apparently, it's been ignored.
Chair, Commission, the letter he's referring to is a letter of noncompliance. It talks nowhere in the letter about, we have a copy if you wish to see it. It says that he's not in compliance with the animals he has on his site. Nowhere does it talk about he being rezoning or anything like that, that we're aware of. So I just want to make it very clear that we can show you this at the next meeting if you'd like.
The count and
What I provided that to you for was it showed what our present zoning conditions were. That was provided to me, and yes, I agree with what he said. But I also gave him that so that he could contact, or you could contact the county. You have two different zoning areas in the county. You have for existing zoning and new zoning, and the two don't talk to each other. But the woman that I spoke to that signed the letter I gave you told me that we are not properly zoned at this time.
I think everybody agrees with that.
Pardon?
I think everybody agrees with that at this point.
but it's a zoning that's on there,
But
and
in order for us to move forward, we have to go with what currently is in place. We cannot make Pinal County change anything.
So if you got it wrong, you're just going to continue to make it wrong.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if Pinal County changes their code their zone next week, we have to start all over again, don't we? Because it hasn't even gone through the process.
well, here's the thing too about Pinal County potentially changing their code. If they were to change the requirements for the MH zone, and/or try to apply a new zoning district to this property, they would be seeking 100% consensus on either changing the requirements of the current zoning or creating a new zoning district and then applying that to that property. Based on the multiple discussions and meetings and comments that we had, I would find it probably unlikely that they would reach 100% consensus in doing either one of those routes. So again, sound like a broken record. We have more flexibility in trying to improve the situation
Agreed.
than what the county does, because we're not doing a zone change. We're creating a zoning district that would be applied as comparable zoning. So 100% consensus is not mandatory. We are having these meetings, which are completely, we didn't have to have any of these meetings. We didn't have to notify folks, because we're just creating a zoning district. We're not applying it on anybody's property today.
No.
We're doing this to reach out and to try and do something that is better than the existing conditions that are out there today. I just stress that you could say all day the county zoning is not right, and they said they're going to change it. That's just almost an impossibility that they.
Can I ask just a theoretical question? Do we have to follow county zoning? Can we just zone it whatever we wanted?
We have to apply comparable zoning, the closest comparable zoning district that we have. Again, you go back to, well, what that is really code for code right now is our MHS,
Okay,
which is
well,
Florence Gardens.
You answered me.
Yeah, we cannot, if you were to apply a different type of zoning, a non-comparable zoning district, that would be a rezoning of the property. So, and the only way you can do a rezoning of the property is to get every single lot owner to agree. So say you could write a PUD. A PUD is a flexible zoning district like Anthem has, but it doesn't have to be an Anthem. It can be any community. But you could write a PUD and say, you know what? Here's exactly what we want to do in here, and this makes everybody happy. But you'd have to do a zone change, because that's not the comparable.
Okay, I think I understand it, but I just want the public to understand, we're not trying to be dictatorial here. We're sort of in a box ourselves. We have to follow.
And we don't have an agenda.
We're just happy medium for everybody, make everybody happy.
And if the annexation if the annexation were not successful for some reason, we'd have this district out here that we would never use. I mean, we're going that extra mile to create this district for this area.
All right, so what I'd like to do is,
I'm not going to say that things that other people.
what's that?
I said I didn't want to say things that other people said. My name's Kelly Nevis. I live at 9570 East Twin Spurs Lane in Florence, and it's Wild Horse Estates. And I have spent days and days going door to door with these neighbors, and there's a lot of misconception. What people don't seem to understand is what you guys are trying to do is go with your annexation rules, which are the current zoning that the county has, and you're trying to create a zoning district which will apply to keep you in conformance with your annexation rules. If we get annexed, this zoning would then apply to our subdivision. If we do not get annexed, then you'll have a zoning district that you've created, and maybe you'll get to use it sometime in the future, and maybe you won't. I don't know. There's two separate issues, and people don't seem to understand that. The zoning with the county is a battle with the county that needs to be addressed with the county. It has nothing to do with the town of Florence or what you guys are trying to do here tonight.
Correct.
It should be irrelevant, and it shouldn't even be brought up again that the county zoning is incorrect. That's a battle that needs to be addressed with the county. The battle that we have with the town of Florence is these options that we've been given and to figure out which option that we want to move forward with. Just off the top, my preference, because I know you're trying to get to this, is option C, just for the record. The only request I would have is that the 2 horses, and I'm not talking about the conditional use permit part, I'm just talking about the actual zoning ordinance, would be changed to animal units. And the reason that would be my request is because, yes, I'm one of the people that has goats and chickens on my property. And I personally don't understand what the difference is between an alpaca or a llama or a horse in relationship to a goat, other than there's quite a bit of disparity in their size. A goat's quite a bit smaller than an alpaca or a llama or a horse. So that would be the only suggestion I would have. My preference is option C. If you could change the 2 horses to 2 animal units, I would even be willing to take 1 horse and 1 animal unit in that initial zoning, and then I can deal with all the rest of what I might or might not want to have through a conditional use permit. The only question I had about the conditional use permit is if somebody could tell me what that costs, if you know off the top, if there's a fee for that permit. And I won't hold you to it if you just give me a ballpark.
I want to say $350.
$350
Yeah, that's for less, an acre or less.
if it's
That's,
on an acre or less?
Yeah, then there's an additional, I think it's, I want to say it's, I think 25 or 35 per acre. So, yeah, it would be,
So if we had like 1.13 acre, we would be 350 plus another $35? Or
Yes.
whatever it is? Okay. And I guess I would want to ask that fee to be waived because there are, you know, some exceptions to what we have going on out there. The other thing is that based on the last meeting, and I was so surprised when I got all these A through E options in the mail because I had made my signature petition based on your last meeting, and I have gathered 27 signatures, and this is what it actually says. Dear Wild Horse Estates property owner, are you in favor, once again, and I keep expressing this over and over, in the event we are annexed? Nobody has said whether we're going to be annexed yet or not. You guys don't have the answer to that question yet or not. So in the event we are annexed, for current property owners to keep their existing livestock and pets. So that would effectively grandfather in the people that maybe have 8 horses, because none of these options provide for 8 horses. The second question is, would you like to see future zoning allow 4 livestock animal units per parcel regardless of lot size? Because again, the wording that you had at the last meeting only talked about animal units. So I used your same terminology and then it kind of got changed a little bit. And then would you like the proposed zoning restrictions, so whichever you come up with to decide and vote on, to apply to new property owners, which means if I sell my house and maybe I've grandfathered in 8 horses and 5 goats and 20 chickens, which I don't have, by the way, the new property owner would then be subject to whatever your zoning is that you vote in and apply. And I do have lots of signatures. I didn't get out to every single house because I didn't have the time, and some people don't answer their doors.
Is that a formal petition that you did through the town clerk?
No, because I didn't know how to do such a thing.
I don't think we can accept it, can we, if it's not done formally through the town clerk?
We can take it as part of
Can you?
the file, though, so.
Okay. Would it be possible for me to get a photocopy? Because I did not make a photocopy of it, or I can make a photocopy of it and bring it to you tomorrow.
That's fine.
And then I didn't realize there was actually a formal process, but if I can get paperwork, I'll go out and get all the signatures over again.
come see us tomorrow. We'll help you get, if there is a formal process, we'll help you get that started.
Okay. And I
It
do
just,
have...
it really protects your petition is what it does, because what they have to do is they have to verify each and every signature that it's a legit signature.
Okay,
So if you expect the petition to carry any weight,
okay,
then it has to be done through a formal process.
okay. The only thing I did was I took out the map and I had them sign next to their lot number so that I
Yeah.
knew that they were signing their correct, you know, as their correct property owner. I do have another letter from a neighbor that is not able to attend tonight that she would like me to read to you guys. And obviously you have the choice of
Is,
whether or not.
is it in reference to what we're doing tonight, or is it more just about how she feels about what's going on out there?
It's just in reference to, you know, she's one of the ones in favor of grandfathering in the existing animals, et cetera. So it's probably,
Just leave it with us, and we'll make sure that it makes the packet at the December 5th meeting, if you'd like.
What's that, the letter?
Have her leave it with us, and we'll
Okay,
make sure
yeah,
you
that's-
get
I
it.
might have to email it to you because I actually left the printed one on the
That's
thing,
fine.
but it's in my phone and I can email it if somebody will
problem.
give me
That's
an
fine, that's
email
fine. Just
address.
get it to him, he'll put it in our packet, that way we'll have it. So-
Okay.
And that way you don't even have to bother reading it tonight.
Okay, and then, the final thing that I wanted to say is, as far as the county, doing their code violation, code compliance, nobody in the 8 or 10 or 12 years they've lived out there and the subdivision was created in 2001 has ever received a code compliance letter from the county for anything, whether they've been in compliance or not. So all these code compliance letters that we all just recently received have come up because of this whole annexation process, number one. And the second thing is that I really believed when I got my code compliance letter that they should have also told me to tear my house down because it's non-conforming to the current zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so let me ask this question of the public right now. Is there anybody that wants to even consider A tonight as an option? We all agree, okay. Is there anybody that would like to consider B as an option tonight? Okay,
If you're getting numbers, would you say them out loud?
What's that?
If you're counting hands, would you say them out loud?
Yeah.
Did you count?
oh, if I count hands, I will, but there was no hands, so, sorry about that. Okay, moving on to the next one. Option C, you've all got a chance to read it? If you guys could raise your hand if you like option C. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people for option C. You know, tonight we're really about just making the right decision, so, I mean.
Actually, she has a valid point. It
It
should
does
be
seem-
one hand for each property.
Well, how many of you guys are same people?
One separate, one together.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there was a lady back here, 6. Okay, so I have 1 extra. Okay, so we're at 6. Okay. That's option C. Option D. Does anybody want to talk about
I'm sorry, what about the people, because the one of them I have the letter, she's a separate owner and she's in favor of C also.
No, just the people that are here tonight.
Yeah, I can only count the people that come tonight, so.
I just want to ask.
Okay, option D. Is there anybody that wants to talk about option D or consider option D? Raise your hand if you want to consider it so I can get a count. That's 1 residence, 2 residents. That's it for option D. Does anybody have anything they want to say about option D? I want to say something about it. Sir, can you come up to the microphone, please? About option D, but about option C. That you're entitled to.
Hi, my name is Terry Macdad, and I live at 9723 East Pinto Pony Drive.
Uh-huh.
And option C, one thing I don't like about option C is it's allowing donkeys and mules, because they're obnoxious. They're loud, and if you ever tried to sleep with a mule braying or a donkey braying, it's totally impossible to do. They don't bray?
I live right across the street from them and it only brays when
Hey, this is not a debate this evening, okay? This is not a debate of who does what, who's
All
wrong,
right, well, anyway,
okay?
that's my complaint about that option C.
It-
Option D, the reason I like option D is it complies with the present zoning and the present covenants that are in there and under the, what everybody bought into the subdivision, the rules they were under at that time.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak on option D? Is anybody considering option E this evening? Option E. Are those same residents or individual residents? Okay, I need one hand for one residence. Okay, that's 2 for option E?
Three or four. Three.
Yeah, I believe we wanted to, one vote per option, not to
Okay,
go
sir,
for
you're gonna have to
multiple.
decide D or E. Okay, that's 2,
That's 2?
yeah. Okay, and, option F, they haven't got to see?
Well, option F wasn't for them, it's only for you.
Okay,
It's like, consider it a letter, well, I just labeled it that way because it didn't want you to get confused with the other ones. So that's just for you.
okay,
Can
so,
I ask a question about option D? When it talks about 2 horses are permitted, does that allow any other animals or just 2 horses?
D, I believe, is the one that's pretty limited, just the 2 horses, period, I believe.
Okay, so goats, anything else like that wouldn't be allowed?
D is two horses, period, no other animals, excepting your pets, okay? So, no other agricultural type of animals and no conditional use for other animals. So D is really the, parallel on the animal side of what the county zoning is.
Yes, okay.
2 horses.
That's what I thought, I just want to make sure I understood it.
you said D is most likely like Pinell
On the horse provision.
on the horse provision, okay. Okay, so what we have right now is exactly what Mr. Eckhoff said an hour and 20 minutes ago, that C, D, and E are the best options tonight. C being winning by 6, D 2, and E 2, okay? What I'd like to do now is, because if I said, okay, we're done, I'd have half the group still upset and half the group's happy. So we're going to take it the next step further. I just got rid of all the other options off the table here. So we're going to talk about C, D, and E. Now, Mr. Eckhoff, correct me if I'm wrong. At this point, we can tweak each one a little bit, correct?
Correct.
To come up with one tonight, okay? Because when I listened, I can't remember names, sir, but this gentleman over here didn't like donkeys and mules on property. She wanted a little hybrid offered where maybe 1 horse and then 1 animal unit instead of 2. So that's what we got to kind of work out now, okay? We're all kind of in agreement that C, D, and E are the direction that we're going. And they're really almost kind of identical, except the wording changes on what you're allowed to have. Is that correct? Okay, so where do we want to go from here with that, Mr. Eckhoff?
Why don't you see if the 2 people on D, that one was changed to E, was changed to E, you could get rid of D.
Ma'am, I'm having a hard time hearing tonight, so if you could say what you're doing, microphone.
I said, why don't you see the 2 people that were on option D were willing to switch to option E, so why don't we have them switch to E, make it a 6 and a 4, and get rid of D, and then you only have 2 to work on? I'm sorry, what?
I have a quick comment.
No, I'm just saying,
hold
no,
on.
you guys are one
Guys,
the
this
ones
is
that change
not,
your
we're not
vote.
going to go back and forth. This is not a debate tonight, okay? Everything comes this way, all right?
Just want to make a quick comment for commission.
Let him say.
Excuse me. We've got a couple letters, and we have 10 people here, or people that voted, separate lots. So you're talking 12 out of the 80-some lots that exist out there. So please keep in mind before we start tweaking too much, this is representing all 84 lots, which could be problematic at the next meeting, because if people get wind that we went with one based on who was just here tonight.
But were they not notified of this meeting tonight?
No, everybody was notified. I'm just trying to keep in mind, I'm sure those people who had to work and other
I know
issues.
exactly what you're saying.
But you said we couldn't count the ones from letters, because they're not here in
I did
person.
not say that. I
Or
said that
he
we're,
did.
we're going to look at that as well, because I'm sure there's more that will
But
come
we'll
in.
look at that at the meeting.
This tonight is
But
to
for
help.
tonight, we're just talking about 10 people, right?
We're trying to do a course adjustment right here.
What I'd like to do tonight is walk away with 2 options that we can bring to the next meeting. Is that correct?
It would be nice, Chair, members of the commission, to try and narrow it down, because at the next meeting, you're hopefully going to send a recommendation on an option to the town council, and hopefully we vet this out enough that when we go to council,
It's smooth.
we've reduced the amount of issues for their consideration. So yes, if you could narrow it down, I think the impasse is obviously, well, it is kind of interesting that you do have the D is really pretty much, you know, just the 2 horses period. C and E have the provisions for additional flexibility in the animals by right and the animals by use permit. So there's a couple that are out there on just D.
I have a question real quick, and it may help narrowing down more. And I'm going to try to word it right. Do we have any flexibility on the conditional use permit fees?
Not here. Somebody could petition, if somebody was applying for a use permit, somebody could petition to the mayor and council to not charge a fee for something. The commission cannot waive a fee.
That's what I need to know.
Staff cannot waive a
We
fee.
can't stipulate that any current resident right now at the time of annexation would qualify for a modified. We can't do that.
We cannot put that provision in there, and we cannot say, well, when you come in, we can't charge you a fee, because that would be considered a gift, and we're subject to.
I just wanted to clarify to make sure that we couldn't do that. My thought was, if we could do that, that would mean a lot of people that are currently C would agree on D. And then we would be narrowing down even another one, so.
You gotta get rid of D, D's bad.
So.
The use permit too, that is also, you know, it conceivably, if you stay in compliance, and, you know, it depends what the steps are put on at the time, but, you know, potentially that's just something that continues to stay with the property, so it may be a one-time thing, unless there's controversy and
House could
people
sell
say.
3 times, the CUP's on the house.
It stays with the land, unless, you know, if it's revoked or something happens, you know, down the road. But conceivably, I mean, it could, potentially, I can't guarantee anything here tonight, but it could stay on the property and probably add value, because, you know, if you have that use permit, well, you can do something more than somebody who doesn't have the use permit.
Well, also conditional use permits could have a time frame on it, couldn't it?
It could have a time frame on it. So if, and the time frames are typically come up more if there's opposition and there's concern about, is this really going to work or is it not going to work? If everybody's, you know, if that person is taking such great care of their animals and everybody loves going over there to see their animals and everybody's supportive of it, there's probably going to be less of an issue with putting the time frame on it. If there's doubt, that's typically when you say, all right, well, let's try it for X amount of time, and then we'll revisit it in 3 years or whatever the case may be.
If somebody had 20 horses, for example, and we said, okay, we'll give you a conditional permit for a year or 2 years so they could get rid of their horses.
Well, the use permit under any of these scenarios would be a maximum of the 4 horses, because it is still, you know, for the most part, they're acre lots, so they're
And I don't want to get stuck on use permits right now, because each use permit is its own identity. One could be approved for 10 years, one could be approved for 5 years, one could, I mean, that's just the way CUPs work. So I don't want to get hung up on that tonight. How do we go the next step, Mark, and get down to 2 more? I want to leave here tonight with 2 good options.
Well, staff believes that the flexibility of, you know, some additional animals being alternated with horses, and the use permit, just really take that extra step to try and be accommodating and reflective of the type of community that it is. It's a little, you know, jewel amongst, you know, ultimately 6,000 square foot lot tract subdivisions. It's a rarity, and it's a privilege. And we've looked at again, Queen Creek and other jurisdictions where they have something like this nudged in, you know, a Circle G or something on that level. It's nudged in the middle of tract subdivisions. They have some flexibility, you know, for these animals. So we feel strongly that the you know, the C and the E, I believe it is, just add that little bit extra that you know, but you know, it's subjective, obviously. But it doesn't. But it doesn't go out there and guarantee anybody with that use provision.
Right.
You know, so I believe that it just takes the extra step to beat the county ordinance.
You said C and E, right?
I believe it's C and E that have that little added flexibility, whereas D is just straight to 2 horses. You know, I think I said it at the last meeting, but, you know, there's increasing literature of cities throughout the United States that are adopting regulations to allow more, you know, farming on your property, gardens, and chickens. I mean, there's chickens like, you know, in urban areas in New York City, or, you know, very urban areas like that. I believe the city of Tempe, I know somebody has a house there that they actually legally had chickens in their suburban backyard.
Scottsdale does.
Scottsdale. So if they are properly kept, and you know, you don't have a rooster waking you up at you know, 4 in the morning, I think it's something that's very viable on these size lots. It would clearly be possible to have some chickens on the property. But again, that's
Our current city code on most of our houses allows chickens anyways in city limits. So,
you know, and the other thing too is ultimately if you were to create something that allowed more than what the county zoning allows today, there are CC&Rs on the property. I mean, civilly, landowners, property owners could say, you know what, you're violating the CC&Rs, and enforce them civilly. I believe they'd have to consult, you know, a specialist or an attorney on that. But ultimately, they could also work to reform their HOA and enforce, you know, if that's what the consensus of the community is down the road, and they say, you know what, the zoning may allow that, but we don't want to allow that in our community, and the HOA can deal with it. So, you know, that's the other angle there today, and we don't want to really get too deep into what the CC&Rs allow or don't allow, and if there's an HOA or not an HOA. We really believe that the C and the E can accommodate the comments that we've heard out there today thus far. And again, we're hearing from, you know, a very small representation of the community.
Agreed.
You know, after all these notices and these meetings, and you know, people aren't coming out in swarms, and so that's.
Can you answer a question for me? There was a manure problem last time, and it seems like all of these options say animal waste shall be stored at least 20 feet from any property line, open space, drainage channel, or surface waters, and shall not violate. So the first part takes care of manure and groundwater. That's addressed there. Okay, I get that. But if you're piling manure out there, why can't that be, in all of them, be hauled away like in a timely manner by a waste hauler or something like that? It seems like to violate, you know, if you're piling horse manure out there, it says, and shall not violate the health and sanitation provisions of the town code. Is that in the town code? You can pile manure wherever you want to?
If you are creating unsanitary or unsafe conditions, you are going to be violating a code. And if it's regarding horses, it's probably going to be something that's enforced under the Pinal County Animal Control Ordinance that we have adopted.
But just by its very nature, you get odor, you get flies, you get the dust accumulation.
You do. If you have horses, you have those things that come with horses. And you know, we didn't want to write like something to deal with every particular scenario, but just say basically, you know, if you have the horses, they're large lots, but they're not gigantic lots. Just care for them properly, and do it in a way that hopefully is, you know, not offensive or less offensive to your surrounding neighbors.
Can I just speak to that 1 minute? Because I did have one gentleman who refused to sign my little petition, and that was because he lived next door to a neighbor, and his complaint was they had a manure pile. It was as far from his property as it could be, and actually close to the next neighbor over, but that was one of their issues, was the manure pile. I can't speak for everybody in there, but I know for myself, my horse manure gets hauled away. The exception was my husband was hospitalized for 2 months and had a 6 months recovery, and then we were in the heat of summer, and I didn't pick it up, but it's all completely gone now. So, I mean, the minute I was able to, there's always an exception to why somebody can't accomplish something at any given moment in time, and again, I am living in the wrong era because I believe you should actually go and talk to your neighbors when you have a problem with them, like the ones that have kids that speed up and down the street and threaten our animals if they happen to get loose and can get killed. And I went over and said, look, this just isn't going to work. You've got to stop speeding up and down this street. And you can call the sheriff or the police department or whatever if you have an issue. I mean, if somebody's not, I'll be the first one to say, if somebody's not hauling their waste away and it's causing a problem for their neighbor, absolutely. Go talk to them. Tell them that if they don't do it, give them 30 days or whatever. If they don't do it, then turn them in. Have at it. But I just don't believe you should just go turn everybody in just because it might seem to make your life better when it probably isn't going to if you're already not happy.
I hate to do this, but we're not here to debate that tonight.
Right.
That's a neighbor issue that needs to be dealt with through county health, not through planning and zoning, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
So,
Chair,
yes.
members of the commission, you know, one of the
thank you.
E and C have a lot of similarities. I think one of the distinctions that I'm seeing is the donkeys. They both have by right the 2 horses, the alpaca, the llama, but in option C, you have the mules and donkeys that are added. And when you get the use permit, again, on the horses, it could be also mules, donkeys. So really, C and E are essentially identical with the exception of the donkeys and the mules. I'm not aware of anybody having donkeys or mules out there.
I'm getting head bobs.
I mean, that would be a question.
I'm going to have the gentleman in the blue shirt come up and speak because he actually, while you were talking, he raised his hand, so.
Good.
And he can discuss donkeys with us.
Okay.
But remember, we're just making decisions
Sure,
tonight.
sure.
We're not blaming
I-
anybody, okay?
Right, and I know some people over in Crestfield Manor, and I was talking to the guy the other day. He said he can hear the donkey. He lives right in the middle of Crestfield Manor, where all those houses are in the center of it. And he says he can hear the donkey or the mule at his house. So they are very loud. And
Is there just one in the, I'm sorry, is there one in the community, or is
there's
there,
only
that
one
you're
as
aware
far
of?
as I know. And I think we got a consensus going over here. We had two for E, and we had
2 for D.
2 for D, and Bill did not vote. So Bill wants to vote for E, and the rest of us that voted for, the other 2 that voted for D want to vote for E. We'll settle
Okay,
for
but what I need to do, just to make it legit, I'm going to ask for a new vote.
Sure, I think you'll
okay?
have 5 for E then.
Okay. All right, so real quick before we move on, because that may just get rid of another option to make it easier, okay? If you're in favor of C, raise your hand. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, go ahead and put your hands down for C. If you're in favor of D, put your hands up, please. If you're in favor of D, that's now a 0 vote. If you're now in favor of E, raise your hand. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So, we all agree at this point that the 2 options that we're going to move forward with right now are C and E. Okay? Town, we're okay with that so far? Okay. Let me catch up here, and then, okay, D goes in the trash. All right. Now, I do have a question about C, and it's just, maybe help me out here. What would it do to C if we changed 2 horses to 2 animal units?
The chair.
Because I'm
members-
trying to think of the people that already have animals, but my concern is at the same time, any future people, that's now leaves it wide open for them to fill in. So, I mean, we're kind of tied both ways.
Chair, members of the commission, if we start doing the units thing, then you're going back to versions of A and B.
Okay.
And an animal unit is so broadly described, and then that's what you have to do, exactly what that gentleman said is, you know, it starts to get confusing because you're going to say, well, you allow these kind of animal units, but you can't have this, and the other. So really the versions of C,
Okay, then here's my question on C then, and that's, you're driving exactly the way I want. I agree, because when you start looking at it, when you go down to small animal unit, now you're talking about 10 of these, 15 of those, and now you've got this huge little petting zoo going on the property, okay? My question is there a way we could change, I'm on page 4, 3B, could we just include just goats and nothing else? And it's just a thought process, Because we could even, in there, limit the number of goats. I mean, I'm just trying to make
Well,
this
it's-
easy on everybody.
well, a scenario conceivably would be if the goats were substituted for something, not in addition to. I mean,
Right,
that
so
would-
they have to give up a horse for 2 goats. I'm just throwing numbers out. They give up a horse for 2 goats. Could we do something like that in that paragraph?
It could be a scenario, but I think what you're doing is you're getting, where, as you start to add those additional options, you're really getting away from the zoning that's out there today and the majority of the circumstances, you know, that are existing today. Majority of the homes they're not farm properties. You
Right.
don't, some home lots, you don't see any animals apparent. I think what I've heard from a lot of people is that, you know, horses are the number one thing that people, they bought into it. It's Wild Horse Estates. The CCNRs allow the horses.
Signed as a horse property.
Yeah, it just don't see anything in the CCNRs or in the county zoning or in the existing conditions that says these are farm properties and you can have goats, sheep, everything else.
Okay.
So,
Gentleman has his hand up.
So the major difference between C and E is donkey and mules. If I'm getting this right, that's the major difference.
correct.
Either one of these, any existing owner would have to apply for a conditional use permit to carry on anything they currently have outside of either one of these, correct?
Outside of 2 horses.
Mark, the gentleman in the red shirt needs to speak. He's going to need a microphone. You lost your partner there. It needs to be turned. It's off, Mark.
My question, kind of, your things state that it's 2 horses per acre plus. That's what it states. So if I own 10 acres, I bought up 5 other houses, I can only have 2 horses.
Per property. Per
It would
acre.
all be my property then. I have over an acre
Right,
of
but when you live in
property.
a subdivision, you can't tear down fences and make one huge property. You can't do that. They have to stay as individual plotted lands. So you could have, if you bought 5 houses in a row, you could have 2 horses on each one of those properties. But you couldn't tear down your fence and
Okay,
say,
but-
I now have X amount of acres, so now I have this many horses that roam this whole thing. You can't do that, because you live in a subdivision. So those lands are plotted individually,
So,
and they
but-
have to stay that way.
But I own over an acre. Now, there are some lots out there are 2 acres. But according to your, yes, there are. There are-
According to the last survey, I think the
One, it's-
largest was 1.01,
One, it's
correct?
2 acres, the one it runs between, according to the plot thing that I received when I bought the property. and then there's another one over in the corner that's 1.9. But the whole point is, if I got over an acre, I'm allowed 2 per acre, then why can't I have an additional 2 for my portion that's over an acre?
Because you'd have to meet, if you're, what you're saying, you'd have to meet an additional acre to earn 2 more. So you'd have to have 2 acres.
I don't,
to have
I
4.
have over an acre.
Right.
I
So you
have-
don't get 2
I
more
have
just because.
20% of a second acre.
Right, so you have less than a quarter of another acre, you wouldn't get 2 horses more for a quarter of an acre.
In the
That would make, I mean, that doesn't even,
In one half acre lots, I can name 5 people in Phoenix, actually in Glendale, that have 6, 8, 10 horses. This is what I've been
but
talking.
sir, we have to go off what we're doing down here. I can't go off of
Well, I'm just
Kansas
trying to get
City
it-
or
yeah.
any other
Just
city.
trying
I
to
have
get
to
it
go
straight
with
in my
what we got
head
here.
as to,
In
Right.
Chair, members of the commission, and in the county zoning, it is two horses per the lot. So you could have an acre lot, you could have an acre and a half lot, you could have a 2-acre lot. It's 2 horses per that lot. Under ours, it would be the 2 per the lot as well. And just to correct you, I believe that there's a home on every lot, but if there was this notion that somebody wanted to just have like 4 vacant lots next to them and have additional animals, well, you have to have a principal use before you can have a secondary use. Principal use is you have to have a home on them. So
Agreed.
now conceivably you could, if you were if you had the means to actually have five lots with 5 homes, then yes, you could have the 2, the animals that come along with that.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I need you to speak through the microphone, sir.
Bill Myers. Would it be possible to, if you, you have 2 horses or whatever it is, and there are people who have already lived there and already have additional animals, have a time period in which they can keep those animals, and through attrition, they'll come down to the allowable number over a 5-year period or a 6-year, I don't know what lifespans on most of these animals, well, I guess a horse will live quite a while, but maybe there's some sort of an attrition that you could go through. That way they wouldn't have to go out and get rid of their animals.
I think what you're trying to say is to create a grandfather clause that says
Exactly.
anybody who's currently there is okay, but any future owners they have to refer back to this code.
Well,
We
that
can't do that with the
certainly,
code.
but at least the people that are there should be able to keep their animals that they've got up, within reason. I mean, I don't want to
But
hurt the horses next door.
What you're saying is, if somebody has 4 horses and one dies, they can't go replace it.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
but see, the problem with the grandfather clause is the grandfather's on the property, not the owner. If I grandfather the gentleman's shirt, in the red shirt,
Then it
when
stays
he
with
sells
the
his
next
house,
owner.
the next owner gets that grandfather too.
Okay, well,
Correct?
that wouldn't be the intent.
In that case, I don't think so, but
Now, we could make it could be made conditional on the sale of the house.
well, the problem that we have ultimately by doing something like this is that the additional animals are not allowed by the county code, so they're not, they're not legal. But one thing we could look at that with we could consult the town attorney, and actually maybe that is another option to lay out there.
For the December 5th meeting.
We would have to get, it would have to be verified exactly that, the animals that everybody has, there would have to be documentation on it. There would have to be a legal and reasonable way of regulating that. Obviously, somebody going to report, that, well, their horse died, and, what happens if they go out and buy a new one and they're not aware of that code? So it's something that we could look at. I think it's problematic on many levels, but we could definitely look at it and consult the legalities
Well, 'cause if that
of
was,
that with the town attorney.
if that physically was possible to do, then it's a matter of just choosing C or E at that point. Because ultimately, if we could do something like that, the current owners are gonna be happy because they get to keep their animals. And they'll be in compliance, right? Is that correct? If something like that was to happen?
If we were to establish language that said that, okay, well, here's what the rules are, but on top of that, as of the effective date that the property comes into the town of Florence, any animals exceeding what is in this code are grandfathered up until the time that those animals are removed from the property through one means or another, or the property is transferred. Yes, then those animals would be essentially legally grandfathered in.
Now, but here's my question. We can't grandfather just the animals that exist. We have to grandfather property, correct? Is it all properties that would be grandfathered, or is it only the ones that are out of compliance? Because if I'm correct, it's all current owners.
No, what you're going to say is anybody in there that had more animals it has to be documented. There has to be a record and put in that file.
As of this day,
As of that day, people have X, Y, and Z, and, hopefully, a week before the annexation is adopted, everybody doesn't rush out and buy a bunch
all
of
their
animals.
I don't see how you could enforce anything like that because, if a guy's got, say, 4 horses and you grandfathered 4 horses, how do you know that's the same 4 horses 2 years from now?
Yeah, I think it's extremely problematic regulating something like that. It's one thing when you regulate, a structure or something. It's pretty obvious that, if you remove the structure.
DNA each animal and check them every so often?
I think that's a really difficult provision. I would rather, if you wanted to go the route of allowing additional animals, that you do it through the channel that can be,
conditional use.
that can be regulated.
Can't these animals be chip matched? They can have the chip on them? Vets can follow them, so, I mean, the only other thing I ask is that if you did do that, and I think these people should be able to keep their animals, they've had them this long, until, through attrition, until they're gone, but I believe we want to make sure that they are cleaned up.
Yeah, again, we can't do that.
We go out to have a barbecue and we're flies
We
all over the
can't
place.
do anything, that's a county health issue, even after Florence annexes you guys, or if they
Okay.
annex you guys, it's still a county health issue. You have to go through them for that.
Okay.
On the health issues, yes, because we don't have a health department per se, or an air quality department, and things like that, so.
Okay, I believe the lady in the black has something to say. I don't know names, so I have to use colors, sorry.
My name is Barbara Hipsher, and I live at 10063 East Pinto Pony Drive. I just have some questions on, like, the horse issue. Okay, you're talking about full-grown big horses. I have 3 little miniature horses that, no, they're not even 3 feet tall. And they're being counted as a big horse. And here's another issue that comes up, too, is I don't know if you're aware, because I originally got my miniature horses because of my husband's Alzheimer's.
That's all you have on the property is those 3 horses?
Yeah, they're little bitty things, and they're more like big dogs. I got them originally as therapy, and of course, when my husband died, then I kind of got attached, and they're more sentimental to me. But also, when I did this, I researched miniature horses, and this could bring in a problem too, is it didn't matter whether you have a zoning for horses or not. Miniature horses are now being used as service animals, same as dogs. So a miniature horse can go into a restaurant or anything if they're 26 inches and under and have been trained. So if somebody has 2 horses and you tell them they can't have that service animal, you're going to have the handicapped people right down your throat, and then you got a lawsuit.
Right,
So that's where you
Once
gotta address that.
once ADA comes out with official determination that miniature horses under 26 inches are considered service animals now, we have to comply at that point.
Okay, that's what I
Till
didn't
then-
know. Some of these people may not know that.
Yeah.
And because I worked at school, I know how these people on handicaps are, and they're like ruthless.
Until then, we have to move forward
Yes.
as they
Okay.
are. Once ADA says under 26 is considered a service animal, then we have no choice, we have to comply with
Right,
that.
okay,
So,
that's what I just want to know.
thank you. Actually, I think, no, there was another, I think the lady in the green shirt had a question, yes. Or a statement.
Hi, my name is Lori Beck. I live at 23664 North Chaps Drive. And the only thing I was going to say is keeping in regulation with the horses of what we already have established is that we can register them. I'm sure as all horse owners, we all have pictures of our horses that are in existence through family pictures, that we could register them with pictures, that we could register them with papers, or microchip, whatever it needs to be, so that when through attrition, when they go, you'll know that it's been changed, or if anybody else decided to go and pick another one, it wouldn't match what would be on record. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good to know.
John Vistonay, 9622 East Twin Spurs Lane, and I just want to say I have 0 animals on my property at all, but I'm happy to live next door to horses and goats and chickens and guinea hens and donkeys if need be. I have no objection to any of those. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just can say that I'm getting used to the 15 chickens that are next door to my house, and I live inside Core Florence. So, yes, sir.
My name is Jim Nevis. I live in 9570 Twin Spurs Lane. I guess my question is about understanding. My wife is talking about C and changing horses to animal units. We have a Clydesdale. Is that 1.5 units? Because it's big? I don't know. Miniature horses, should there be 3 equals 2? I don't know. We have 2 goats that are 18 inches tall, full grown. I don't understand 2 horses equals what? Is it bigger horses or smaller horses? What's the point? I don't understand that. I do think animal units makes more sense than horses. The lady with the miniature horses, I don't think they drop enough poop to equal my Clydesdale. So I'm not sure.
No argument there. No argument there.
So my 1 horse should equal 4 of hers. So anyway, give that some consideration about animal units, because equal is equal. Thank you.
Mr. Eckhoff, I don't want to beat the miniature horse thing to death, but that's probably not the right terminology. But could we, no matter which version we go with, I read both of these, and we really don't make any concession for miniature horses. Can we stick something in that allows, because where does she fit those in? She'll be out of compliance no matter which way, because miniature horses are not addressed.
It's a type of horse. I mean, under the county zoning, putting ADA.
So a horse is a horse.
Oh, yeah, I think that sounds
Horse.
Of course, of course. Yes, a horse is a horse. Now, if it was a companion animal, yes, the point has been made that clearly we would accept it as a companion animal. I mean, that has to be legally
defined by ADA.
Defined, validated. But yeah, a horse is a horse, so a Clydesdale or a miniature horse or anything in between, a horse is a horse. And that's the way that the county ordinance is now. It doesn't say, well, you can have 2, but if they're really big, you can just have 1, or if they're really small, you can have 4. It's just kind of, there can't be a scenario, there can't be a code for every single possible scenario that's out there. Already by C and E, we're already doing better than the county code. So
yeah,
we're kind
that
of
is true.
We're already ahead with C and E, and I think I don't know that we will progress a whole lot more this evening. I think sometimes you kind of
I think we went way far. We went from 6 to 2.
We went pretty far on these, and there's not a lot of differences, and I would say maybe the remaining issues, if people want to, although the next meeting is not a public hearing, if folks want to share their comments, please share them with us. And they get to us a lot quicker if you send them to us or email us or drop them off in person.
Let me clarify that for them, what you're saying. What he's saying is the next meeting is not a public hearing, because the public hearing was open and closed, and then we continued the meeting, okay? So if you have something that you want on the record at the next meeting, you need to do it through them, okay? Because at that next meeting, I'm not going to bang the gavel and go, the public hearing's now open. There won't be an opportunity for you to address us. So, okay, I'm being told no now.
You have, it's not a public hearing, but you do have the ability to, as tonight, to recognize people to speak if you choose to do so.
Okay.
But you have to call them out person per person if you want to. But it's not a public hearing. Let's
Right.
get that clear.
So I control it. I can say who can and can't. Okay.
If we get the comments,
Will it be another work session like tonight? Is that?
No.
No, it'll be an actual action item.
then
Right.
Justin, yeah.
It would be a good idea if people had some commentary or some suggestions or something to send them to you, so that we have preparation for them.
We would like to receive those comments so that we can,
Right.
you know, potentially offer some other ideas and, you know, not creating, you know, GEHI and so forth, you know, but maybe massaging C and E to some minor reasonable.
So I'll go back to what I was saying. If you guys have something, let's get it to, and spread the word around your community. If they got something, get it to planning and zoning office.
Which is that little building right across the street.
Yeah, that way.
Where it is.
I will make the decision between now and the next meeting how many people, if any, maybe I'll do 2 for, 2 against, I don't know. I'll decide that before the next meeting, because technically we don't have to let anybody speak. So the real way to get it on the record, I'm going to beat it to death, is get it through these guys so they can get it to us as part of the meeting, okay?
And can we also have Mr. Minato take a look at the equivalency units and see what impact that would have and how we do it? I know it's kind of out of his realm, but it'd be a good idea to have some commentary from him.
We can definitely look at any potential, you know, legalities, and I think the one issue is definitely on the issue of the grandfathering.
Grandfathering and the CUP. And
Are you still taking comments?
No,
I just wanted to know if we would know before the next meeting what your final decision was.
we're making it at that meeting. We can't do
Oh, at the
anything
meeting.
till that meeting. So, yeah, no, we have to do, that's an action item. We have to do it up here like we normally do, so. Sir, at this point, we're going to shut down comments. If you got anything, just get it to these guys.
I just have a question, and to be truthful, it doesn't have anything to do with this topic.
Okay.
It does have something to do with what the question the gentleman next to you raised earlier that we're concerned about. Can I ask you personally after the meeting or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Eckhoff, is it possible, just in case, you have to post the next meeting fairly soon, right? The next agenda, can we?
We have to post the agenda. We've already done the public notice for it because we did a continuation to a specific date. So all we have to do is post the agenda.
Is there a way to add to the agenda an executive session in case we need it? Because we can't have it if it's not on there, but if it's on there, then we can have it if we need to. So, and I think you know why I'm saying that. That way we can sit and talk to the attorney and all that if we need to. We may not even need it, but if it's on the agenda, we have that option, so. All right. I think we'll go on to the next agenda item.
Yes.
All right. All right, next agenda item for this evening is call to the public for commission's response. This is a call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticism made, they may ask a staff to raise a matter raised, or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. At this time, I open the call to the public. The call to the public is now open. Do I have anybody that would like to address the commission? All we can do is listen, we can't respond. If I have nobody that wants to address the commission, I'll close the call to the public and open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Reed?
No, I have nothing.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, I'd like to thank the people who are coming in here tonight and expressing their positions, but also you need to encourage your neighbors to get here. You know, we had 11 people voting here for, what, 90 people live up to 89? 84. So, you know, you're going to let us make a decision for you. I would like to get as much input as possible, and I'm sure the rest of the commissioners would too. So have them turn their thoughts in, their letters to the staff. We'd like to hear from them. Thank you.
Commissioner Petty? Commissioner Puttrick?
I would like to thank everybody for showing up and your comments, and your comments are very helpful to what we're trying to do. And like I said, we don't have any agenda. We're trying to do the right thing for you guys, for all of you. And yeah, everything was a mess before, but we're trying to clear that all up with what we're doing here. So bear with us. We're working on it. Sure.
Okay, with that, I will adjourn this meeting at 8:05.